going to talk about mentorship and restarting Civilization from scratch. If we lost everything, had to restart it, would we be able to? And because of the size of this room, we're going to hope this works without the clicker. Look at that. You can scan this also because there's going to be some stuff on the screen. You'll be able to follow along live as we switch the slides. That way, you don't have to squint or get out binoculars. And so you can do that if you would like. First off, I do want to say thank you to the organizers for doing this. They put a lot of blood, sweat, tears, and just a lot into it. Boom, there it is. Look at that. Well, yeah, hey, look, there it is. Okay, but yeah, thanks to the organizers. Thanks to all the other speakers. Also thanks to the sponsors that really make this, the ability to put this on. Do not miss going to their booths, saying hi, hearing what they do, and then taking swag after you've gone through that kind of interaction. So that's my little spiel. Thank you all for being here. All right, so what is our fascination that we have with, it tends to be with these like dystopian thrillers, these like zombie, flicks, the young adult fiction, all of this around like end of the world kind of things. Who all's kind of fascinated and pretty much just down that rabbit hole? Who else is out there that's like that? There's more than you. Come on, like they sell millions of. Yeah, okay, everybody watches those shows, so it's, it's got to be more than like 6 of you. But yeah, like we're inundated with them. There's a lot of, there's everything from, the shows that have gone on for probably, 6 seasons longer than they should have, or, there's some that are just kind of that flash in the pan that probably should have gone on for 6 seasons that maybe only went on for 1 or 2. Some kind of tend to be deep, dark, kind of unsettling. Others kind of go on this route of, kind of like the comedic twist. If you haven't seen Shaun of the Dead, I don't know why you're here. And that should be rectified before you go to the after party tonight. So just know if you haven't seen Shaun of the Dead, go see it. Also, iZombie, it's freaking amazing as a show. The premise, I won't spoil it for you. But yeah, like they come in all shapes and sizes. They all generally come with kind of this idea that, the premise of humanity sucks, and, here's what could happen if we kind of continue down this path. Thank you. Only one of you. That was great. Or, there's some catastrophic event that happened. Okay. Well, we're just going to... Fantastic. Well, it's not for me, so, we'll just continue on. There's like this traumatic, catastrophic event that happens that kind of changes the world, and then it lets you kind of explore kind of this alternate view of how society might respond. But we'll just wait for that. How humanity might respond to said crazy event. Hopefully that will do it. No, it's great. How's everyone doing this morning? Should we talk louder for your hangovers, or should we go a little quieter? Excellent, excellent. Hey, look, we're right back. Yes, so with all of these kind of, apocalyptic, thrillers and shows and all this that we kind of get inundated with, what could be better than the work from the apocalyptic genius Jane Austen and Pride and Prejudice? Just the way that it approaches kind of this world-ending, wait, hold on. That one, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. If you haven't seen it, again, it's a work of art. But how it just approaches this, like, hey, modern day, yep, it's just not going to do it. This modern day world, and now it gets thrown into just a fit of insanity, just like today. Just like we're kind of dealing with this right now. That's amazing. But yes, if you haven't seen it, see it. But one of my favorites was a show called Revolution. It was one of those flash in the pans that really should have gone on longer. Who saw this show? That's probably why it didn't go on very long. There was only a few of us. It was amazing. It started out with this idea that some event, a worldwide EMP, just knocks off everything. Everything electric all of a sudden dies. It's no more. That was in the year 2027, so we have a few more years until then. Probably before the next midterms? So just know that's probably kind of timed appropriately. But yeah, everything gets knocked off. Then it jumps ahead about 15 years to explore this idea of, that's interesting, explore the idea of, okay, now we have a world that all of the basics, we don't even have electricity. How does society change? How does it become, something different? See if that works. And yeah, so the world is now back about probably 140 years of when we didn't have electricity. Then it looks, like I said, 15 years forward, see how society has evolved without that electricity. It was kind of a fascinating thing, but evidently, like I said, not many people watched it. It also gave us a view of how when your Prius dies, the obvious ending of it is to become a garden, which I guess that is the most efficient way of, climate controlling vehicles. So anyways, but have you ever kind of stopped to think, like, if everything as we know stopped working, we had to kind of make do with what was left, could we do it? Do we have all the things necessary? Who all has kind of had that thought or gone down that rabbit hole? Okay, yeah, more than watched that show, so great. It's good to see everybody else is, kind of in on my brain. So yes, my name is Jeremy Meiss, Director of DevRel's Community at Circle CI. We are a continuous integration, continuous deployment provider, both cloud and on-prem. And we a lot of really great things going on. You can even throw stuff into your VS Code and be able to see like an extension. Now you can see all your pipelines running. That's the last you'll hear about the company on this slide. Great. If you have questions, come talk to me. Otherwise, we're going to move on. All right. So over the past few years, we've experienced something that nothing in could have prepared us for. Nobody in our generations, and even probably before, have ever kind of experienced this thing for at least over 100 years. A pandemic, which for many of the world brought kind of a total lockdown, really kind of changed how we view our lives, how we, even our jobs, how we do our jobs, what jobs we want to get, our families and friends, and how we interact with them, and more. And so during this time, I was on a Zoom call with some friends, and that's not actually the picture of it. It was only a few. If you want to be my friend, we'll talk later. And you also could jump in on these fun things. But the topic in it kind of came up with this, like, what happens? Could we restart civilization from scratch? And so we kind of bounced some ideas and kind of talked around for a bit. The whole, do we have the tools? And kind of trying to answer that question. And it really kind of got me thinking, kind of sent me down, like I said, this rabbit hole of, okay, could we do this? And so I also found that I was not alone. There were others that kind of had started to kind of look at what that would look like. So one of them was Lewis Dartnell in his book, How to Rebuild Civilization in the Aftermath of a Cataclysmic Event. And he talked about like all the crucial bits of knowledge that post-apocalyptic survivors would kind of need to have, in order to restart things. Was it a pandemic outbreak, a asteroid impact, other disasters, really messing up on karaoke, anything could really kind of kick you into that. And so he went down that kind of path. Then a friend of mine, Quintessence, pointed me to a study that the Long Now Foundation did, which started in 1996. And their whole idea was to kind of foster this kind of long-term thinking around, what would we need? Trying to assemble all of these things together. And they were kind of inspired by a guy by the name of Thomas Thwaites, who did a TED Talk around, he kind of decided to try and do this. So he tried to build a toaster from scratch. He smelted the ore, he kind of got the plastic from oil, kind of toiled towards creating a prototype, which excuse me, worked for a total of about 30 seconds and ended up what you see on the right. He just didn't have everything that was necessary in order to, make a toaster from nothing. Sorry. So the Long Now Foundation, so like I said, they set out to kind of create this, a manual for civilization. And they started with like a library, bar, event space in San Francisco. They started to collect over about 3,500 like texts and books and manuals and such to, what were those most essential things that you would need that they thought to rebuild civilization. And they did this in San Francisco, a place where they have a history of earthquakes and fires, and assembling all those into one place is probably not the best disaster recovery scheme. So that whole long-term thinking, I really kind of throws that into sus. But, single point of failure, what could go wrong? But it really kind of got me more thinking about, like, how did we get here? Like, how did our ancient ancestors kind of pass on what they knew, what they had seen? How did they do that to the next generation? Long before we had Wikipedia or the Encyclopedia Britannica salesperson. No one remembers? It's like, okay, thank you, a few of you. If you want to know what that means, talk to Homer afterwards. But before we had all of those, we had this thing that was called orality. Orality it's that thought and verbal expression in societies where the technologies of literacy, especially those things in writing or in print, are unfamiliar to most of the population. And so, that was that thing that kind of really got us, in many cases still kind of, it was the most widespread form of human communication. Then that kind of gave way to this, like orality, it gave us those stepping stones that allowed us to get to where we are today. It was a necessity for the growth of civilization as we know it. And it's this function that kind of helped cultures continue to advance on how, things like how to hunt, how to plant, how to navigate, etc. It's kind of hearing from that group of tribal leaders, the stories of generations past, passing on, those customs that kind of shaped their lifetime and the lifetimes to come, and that you would then pass on to, further generations. In the ancient world, this took the form of, like the Iliad and the Odyssey were literally kind of ways of passing on tradition and things that they understood about the world at that time. Beowulf was also a way of doing that. And we kind of see it some in the modern world of the kind of short stories and songs that the Aboriginal peoples in Australia, they use to navigate their territory is through that orality. So, but eventually, once things kind of began to be written down, it gave way to this thing we call oral tradition. And oral tradition is that form of communication where knowledge, art, ideas, and cultural material is received, preserved, transmitted orally from one generation to another. So that is very much, it's like that recall and sharing of those specific texts in cultural knowledge, doing so verbally. You have it written down, but you're doing so verbally. So that's where it's sitting around the campfire and your grandfather, he's talking about, the early days of, working on the farm in Nebraska, or it's, taking a ride in the old pickup as you, head to that with your, parents, or your grandfather, or your uncles to that, hidden stream in Colorado to get the best fly fishing. It's essentially like it's hearing the things of how you can survive, how you can do things in your, little subcultures or in your communities. But as societies became, predominantly more written and textual, there emerged kind of this, another way of kind of passing on trades and job functions. In some cultures, in societies, if your father was a blacksmith, then you would become one. If your mother made tapestries, maybe you would do the same. And everything revolved around the family business. And if your family didn't have a business, then you would be, kind of attach yourself to somebody maybe in that town that didn't have children to be able to carry on the family business. And that kind of gave way to this thing we call apprenticeship. So there was a talk given a couple years ago at Monktoberfest 2019 where Eric Dask, he talked about the compagnons du devoir, and I do not know French, so I'm sure I completely butchered it. Oh well. If you do know, please tell me later. I really want to try and get that right. But some of the great artists and craftsmen in like the 1800s, 18th and 19th centuries, they came out of and were really influenced by this whole idea of like these French fraternities that kind of started to kind of rise up. The term compagnons is really just means a companion, which meant essentially one who shares bread with another. So it's kind of going alongside with them, and you're kind of doing life together. Another way that it kind of got translated was companions of duty. And so, before becoming that companion, the children were sent off to, kind of apprentice with someone for about 10 years in order to learn like just the core basics of that craft or trade, just to be like a basic artisan within just that craft in kind of a smaller section. And then after they become proficient in that trade, they then would embark on kind of this journey that was throughout France, which was literally called a Tour de France, learning the more advanced kind of specialized aspects of that trade from the masters that were throughout France. And then, they would be, after learning from those masters around France, then they would come back and they would spend about a year or so working on literally a dissertation where they would showcase all that they had learned in order to then present it to a committee of masters in that trade to say whether or not they could be included into that fraternity as a master of that. So, which is what we have today in our modern kind of college structure. So mentorship, you might say, all right, so I get it, mentorship, apprenticeship, it's how we save civilization, cool. Could it really just be all that simple though? Could we have really skipped to the final episode of The Walking Dead after watching the first one, figure it all out, and be done, or have skipped, the entire season of how many seasons of Lost and just, figured it all out? Well, yeah, but actually no. It's not that simple. And this is where I do kind of say, I kind of threw a little clickbait in here, because no, I don't believe that strictly through this idea of apprenticeship or even mentorship will we be able to rebuild civilization from scratch. Alexander Rose, who's the executive director of Long Now, he put it this way: after the fall of the great Egyptian, Mayan, Roman empires, we had evidence and examples of all of the engineering achievements that they had achieved. But all of those aqueducts or senate buildings that were there, they were worthless without the society around them to maintain it, contextualize it, protect it. And so we could have all of the tools necessary, but if we don't have all of those structures in place within our communities and even within our jobs, within the culture within our jobs, it's not going to matter. So we're going to talk about kind of how we can do this, though, and protect the cultures and the communities within, that we are involved in, and how that can help in some way as we move throughout the years to come, and how important this really is. But I'm first going to talk a little bit about what the difference is between coaching and mentoring, because people tend to kind of get these mixed up. They kind of see them as the same kind of term. Mentors are there to give you advice. They're going to help you navigate through your career, which usually is kind of that long haul instead of a short-term kind of thing. They're going to be that sounding board. They're going to share their experiences with you around whatever that thing is. They're going to walk with you as you go through that as well. What coaches do, they're just coaching you. They're just, taking how you perform in a given situation, provide advice, and give you those suggestions, hopefully constructive criticism, that will then move you, hopefully, to have a better result on that thing. But there's usually a specific goal in mind. It's very short, and they help push you and guide you to that goal, and then move on. So that's kind of that difference and how that breaks down. So recently I asked a number of questions on Twitter about mentorship and how we prepare, can help prepare the next generation within, to continue on. And specifically about what were their wins and what were their failures around mentorship. What advice did they have? Whether they were being mentored or they were a mentor. And then, any words of advice they might have for someone that would be mentored, and then, even those that were doing the mentoring. So kind of this idea of, how do you mentor up and down, and, see what everybody had to say. And so kind of start moving into kind of like the practical steps to mentor or be a mentor. So for the mentor, we had Rachel, who provided a lot of really good advice in here. Said that it's really important that you understand why you are, or why you want to be a mentor. Understand, what it is that you bring to the relationship, to a mentor, to a mentee. Is that something you think that they, that you possess? If they come to you and say, hey, I want you to help me on, Rust. Well, is that something that you know? If you don't know Rust, then you should not try and take them on. It seems pretty foundational. But you got to be upfront about what you can and can't bring to that. Jason also wrote that it's really hard to identify how a mentee tends to learn, but it is essential to understand their learning patterns. Otherwise, it may not be compatible with you and how you might mentor. And it's something that, he said that the whole switching, modes based on the needs of the individual it can be a challenge. Some people want to know how you did something. Some people want to brainstorm and figure it out. Like you got to understand how they learn. Rachel, Tamimi, and Dan, they all touched on kind of the same point, that it's important to have like an outcome that you both want to see with a timeline. This should not, a mentoring kind of relationship should not be something that is, there's no end in sight. There should be some type of a time frame, and understand what it is that you both want to see. Rachel, again, had a number of thoughts around like the key steps when you are kind of setting up the meetings with your mentee. First thing is you really want to set focused topics, which move them towards, that desired outcome. And then, you want to recap what was discussed and learned after each of those kind of mentoring sessions. That way it's kind of that active listening piece. That way both of you understand what's going on. And then the third thing is like you're really keeping a shared doc of all of those meetings that you've had, and all of those kind of conversations, and then the progress as they moved along. So that way you can always refer back to it, whether that's for your performance reviews, so you can say, hey, I've been working with the mentor and here's what we've done, or it's just for you to see where, how far you've come, also to understand some of that progress. Is it progressing the way that you as a mentor or mentee want to see? And then it's important here to, I think, stress this. I'll say it a few times in a couple different ways, but it's okay to not know. It's okay to say when a mentor or a mentee comes to you and says, has a question about something and you don't know the answer, it's okay to say, I don't know. That's a learning opportunity for both of you to embark on that journey of finding out, which is going to help you, but it's also going to help them as they learn right alongside with you. So it's okay to not know. Don't this idea that senior engineers or senior whatever, they need to know everything, and you shouldn't say that you don't know. That's a bunch of bullshit, because nobody knows everything, and it's important for you to be okay saying I don't know. Which also comes down to normalize, I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing. I look at myself in the mirror quite often and repeat this, and it tends to help. We'll see. Let me move whoa, that was fun. The idea of, you don't really know what you're doing, it's okay, because, again, that normalizes this idea with everybody. But use questions to shape the decision-making for your mentee. You're not trying to create a robot in this. You want them to learn. You want them to, they're not trying to be duplicated of you. They need to, learn how to learn. And so, get around, by using these questions, it kind of helps you to get around the biases for assuming the knowledge they may or may not have. It also kind of helps you understand their thought process and even them understand how they think about things. And it also kind of helps you identify some of those gaps that might be present in how either you are able to teach or how they are able to learn, and use that, figure out how to make decisions together. But you also can't save someone from stupid mistakes, but you can tell them how you fix them. Giving somebody the ability to fail and it be an okay thing is extremely important, whether you are a manager or higher in that chain, or you are an engineer, whatever you are. Being able to say, you know what, I made a mistake, but let's figure out how to solve this. It's show them how you fixed it, but help them learn how to fix it themselves. Give them that space. Pairing with a mentee kind of comes to the same thing with that, is that if you encounter a problem and you don't know how to solve it, the worst thing you can do for your mentee that you are working with, whether it's somebody that's shadowing you or it's actually in this mentor-mentee relationship, the worst thing you can do is go quiet and start just typing and doing things, because they're not going to learn. Voice what you're doing, voice every single aspect of your thought process. Be vocal as they're working with you so that they can hear sometimes the struggles you're having, but also see learn some of those tips of how to go find information. Not everybody grew up with Alta Vista and Yahoo before Google. Some of us grew up with that. And yes, we can go and Google a bunch of stuff, but not everybody has the idea of how you really use Google for engineering. So think out loud, try all those wild ideas, show them that it's okay to do that, and then fail together, debug together. All of that should be done verbally and together. Model how to get others promoted. So Beth, there's gonna be a lot of great things from Beth here, but she really mentioned how important it was that you model how you as a mentor can help get others promoted, how you can kind of stand in the gap and help bring others up, whether they are your mentee or not. It's important to do that. Help everybody, show how to keep track of your work, keep track of the things, so when it comes time to that promotion cycle, they have the tools necessary. Show them how that works. Also show you're not finished learning. It goes back to this, you don't know everything. Show the things that talk about the books you're reading, talk about the streams that you're watching on Twitch to learn some, that new thing. Talk about that. Show them that you are still learning and that it doesn't stop. Help them share to a broader audience if they desire to do so. Don't force them to, but if they're wanting to kind of get into that, maybe I want to speak, well, help them with that. And give them the tools, help get them to do maybe a lightning talk or do meetups or how to write blog posts or conference talks. All those things, help give them the tools to do that. Give them the support necessary, because we all know that sharing the things that you're learning, even if it's in a a small audience or a big room like this, sharing the things that you're learning helps you contextualize it, helps it kind of stick with you, and also can help somebody else along that path. All right, so as a mentee, we want to kind of keep track of these things. David mentioned making sure that your mentees, they come prepared with all the things that they want to learn. Make sure that's a part of it. As a mentee, that's what you need to be doing. This is something I don't want to minimize. Beth had some really great points here for white males. The tech industry and society was created for whites to have dominance. It's bullshit. It is extremely important that those of us that have benefited from that use our privilege to help those that are underrepresented and marginalized. Not just women and people of color, but ex-incarcerated folks, people that are first-gen college students, those that didn't go to college, those that didn't have the advantages that we have, start out at a certain spot that gave us the advantage. You have to show up. We have to use our privilege to advance everyone. We have to make the industry more diverse and representative. That should not be a burden that the diverse and underrepresented have to bear. But also, for the non-white males, it's important that Beth really stressed this, is like, seek out those that have that similar background. The importance there is that you have a shared experience and a special kind of community and kinship that, in that vulnerability that almost immediately kind of is present there, that can help in that support system to help you. And she could not stress that enough. I talked to her about this later, and it's so important. They also, all these kind of had a few things on mentorship wins and failures. So Dan was really clear about learning that you really can't mentor someone to success. Sometimes it just doesn't work. Sometimes it's not a situation, and you need to help them get to something different. Remember, people are humans with feelings and have personal lives. This one from Jason kind of shared this story, how he learned that people are humans, the feelings, that the reason why somebody wasn't being as successful at work and really struggling was because they had other things going on in life. And so he kind of worked around with them, kind of helped come alongside them, and really kind of helped get them to another step. So some of the takeaways here. Always be learning. I said that earlier, but just that's one of this takeaway. Always be learning. Help others learn, but you'd have to be learning yourself. Ben touched on, mentorship is not always older to younger. There are some amazing young engineers out here that could teach all of us a thing or two, regardless. And so it's important that we, understand that it's not this older to younger. It could be the other way. And be open to that. That's okay. Make yourself available because people are looking. People are always out there looking for mentors. But recognize as a mentor when it's time to pass the baton, make that connection for a mentee to that next thing. And this is where we kind of move from like being a mentor to being a sponsor. So some quick notes here on this before we kind of wrap things up. There is this distinction between mentorship and what it means to be a sponsor. Laura Hogan, she's a tech management coach and trainer. If you're a manager out there, I highly recommend you get on her mailing list, Laura Hogan. But she kind of separated this into two different things. One is that mentors are people who can give us helpful advice. Sponsors are people who help us find those new opportunities, improve that visibility of our work. This also kind of was expressed here, kind of the difference in how a mentor approaches a situation versus how in a situation like speaking at conferences versus how a sponsor looks at it. You step out for them and you say, hey, I'm going to recommend you speak at this thing. Maybe you get a speaker out there and someone says, hey, I'd love to have you speak at this conference. You say, great, but have you talked to my friend over here? You talk to him instead, or her, or them. If you talk to them, they would be a great person to speak to. Scott Hanselman at Render this year talked about mentors. They tend to be that mirror to help you define what your dream is, your strengths, advise you, they guide you. But a sponsor is really, they're a spotlight. They create luck by lifting others into those new spaces. John Alspa, he said, if you're a senior, staff, or principal, or distinguished engineer, whatever the fuck those things mean, you'll do well by reading this thing here. Mature engineers lift the skills and expertise of those around them. Laura said it a little bit differently. Mature teammates list the skills and expertise and names of those around them. It's not enough in a situation to say, hey, I got somebody on my team that'd be great for this. Mention their name. Speak about them in in your monthly status meetings that you might have to give to a large audience. Lift them up by name so that everybody else starts to hear that name. That's what sponsorship looks like. Kate here said that mentors tend to give perspective, but sponsors give the opportunity. It's important to have both, and they're very helpful, but sponsors are going to give that opportunity. And Laura kind of had this final thought. Marginalized people are over-mentored and under-sponsored. So it's important for those of us, comes back to the privilege, those of us that whether it's because we've been in the industry for a while or because of where we are at, it's important that we sponsor and stand up for those that are marginalized in ways that they have not experienced before. Does it, do I think mentorship is going to save us from the next, zombie horde that's going to invade your backyard, eat your garden? Probably not. But do I think that, mentorship is extremely essential to help us shape the next generation of developers and operators and people in tech that have the best opportunity to shape the culture and diversity of our organizations in the years to come? Yes, I do. And so I want you, and I will share the slide deck out after this, but thank you to all of those that did respond to this, and go out and follow them. Like I said, you can go back and find this slide later and be able to follow them, but definitely follow and see what they're having to say about tech and the industry that we are currently in. And that's it. That's what I have. You can find me a couple different places there. On Twitter, I didn't put the new, I'm also kind of did the thing to Mastodon just to see what's up because of, the idiot that decides that. Anyways, you can find me these places. Feel free to come up and talk, and would love to hear what you have to say. Thank you again. That's it.